Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a gloriously early Tuesday morning over here in a very dark and damp Helsinki, Finland. Plenty to talk about today. Also have a couple announcements as well, which we'll start off with, I guess, right now. A lot of people have been trying to get into the Discord as of recent times, and I see all of these people actually trying to join the server, but they can't get past our security bot. So let me explain how to actually join the server and what to do. First and foremost, go into the link below in the description of this video. There's going to be a link directly to Discord. Once you're in there, what's different about our Discord in comparison to maybe Discords that familiar with is you're going to be prompted with a private message from our security bot called Altdentifier, and he's going to, or she, I don't know what the gender of this bot is, but they're going to send you some sort of a verification link that essentially tells us that you're not like some sort of a spam bot that's going to just really piss off everyone. So with that in mind, it takes maybe half a minute, and then you're in. It's 100% free. It's open and available to anyone, but we do have a few rules. We do expect people can be respectful towards each other. We do expect people to be more or less at the very least civil and cordial when having a disagreement. Of course, you don't have to be friends with everyone. You don't have to agree with everyone. Of course, that would be weird in its own self as well, but we do expect at the very least civility. So we will be a little bit quick to ban, especially with politics and shit like that, because it's just a distraction as far as I'm concerned. And well, there actually is a channel to talk about that within the Discord server as well, but if you do abuse it, well, fair enough. So with that said, next announcements, what did I have to say? Oh yeah, there's been, with Bitcoin going back up to the fucking moon targets, we do see a lot more scammers within the comments. This, as of recent times, you probably noticed it's like actually a full-time job trying to delete these things. So it's just virtually impossible until YouTube enables some sort of like native equipment to deal with it. But there's been one or a few really diabolical ones that actually pose as me with basically the same name, Krown's Crypto Cave, and they'll like comment on people's stuff, and it looks like it's actually not a bot either, because they're rather responsive to people. I can tell you straight up, I'm never gonna ask to trade your account. I'm never gonna tell you about like or ask you for money in the comments or whatever the fuck that they're doing, or giving out my phone number. For the love of God, it's the last thing I'm gonna be doing. But what you can do if you're really not sure is you can just click on that person's name, and if it doesn't bring you to the homepage of this channel, Krown's Crypto Cave, with all the videos and everything, then it's an imposter, and it's very likely to be a scam. I'll put it that way. Anyways, putting the focus over here in the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krownchain.net. What do we see? Oh, that's also my other announcement. Big changes to this coming. Not right now, but probably in the next month or so, and we're gonna actually be able to send out push notifications and alerts and whatnot. So we'll be able to like customize alerts for all the data that you see on here, which is gonna be super cool. Anyways, looking at Bitcoin dominance, still kind of awesome within the same region. Did come down a little bit, about 0.25% from yesterday to today. Most importantly, with that, we do see it essentially round out the bias that Bitcoin is still more or less ranging, with a bias to the upside resolution, as I was talking about after the weekly closure yesterday. So more or less, as Bitcoin does range, I would expect a lot of altcoins to actually regain a little bit on their Satoshi parent. However, next time Bitcoin breaks outside of the range, whether it be 16,000 or 15,000, well, it's going to be another boo cake party, very likely. Once again, open interest, same thing here as well. We are starting to see a range correlated with the price action range. Again, 15,000 to the downside. About obviously, we're going to go into specifics with that soon enough. It's not exactly 15,000 and 16,000 to the upside. Correlated with the open interest range between about 2.5 billion and about 2.25 billion. And what do we see on fear and greed index? Also hanging around the 90 read. And I'm curious about these parrots and this goddamn gold mine, and where is this bridge that I'm trying to cross as well? I'm trying to get to it right now. Anyways, stupid shit to be saying in the early morning hours. Sorry about that. We do actually see the premium on futures increase over spot price action, which does suggest that the market makers are still actually kind of pricing in a more upside move from here. Also, checking out the fear and greed index, we are kind of in that critical territory, and that still kind of rounds up my my former bias that I was having coming into this week. Yes, I do think that Bitcoin will continue upwards and onwards from here. However, I also do think that it's going to be a massive cautionary time as well. Looking at the funny rates, we do see something very interesting over here with OKX actually posting a negative rate, which is probably due to some sort of their legal issues that are going on right now. All of the other exchanges have come down quite a fair bit to parity, or I wouldn't say parity, but basically default once again at 0.01%. We did see it get pretty damn close to the critical areas over the weekend, I think it was, or maybe it was yesterday, but backing off does suggest that this run probably still does have another try. So with that said, let's go into the actual price charts themselves. I forgot to wish you the best, and the happiest though, so I'm doing it right now. I'm wishing you the best, and the happiest. And it's probably just a good idea to get into the habit of that, especially right now when it seems like everyone's pissed the fuck off with all of these situations going on within this world. It can only help, at least I hope. Anyways, yes, looking at this right here, what do we see? We do see, or actually, first off, let's follow up on yesterday's price action. Let's go back to my BitMexican chart right here, and then we'll use the GDAX chart for new price action. But basically, we did actually see a closure above that 15,750-ish pivot right here, and someone in the Discord was asking a really good question. Krown, how would you know that this one was unlikely to be an actual continuation drive, and how would you have been maybe tipped off or warned that this was not going to be the breakout, so to speak, as it did technically close above the last prior high? Well, first and foremost, volume on this, the volume signature, as you can see on this actual breakout delta right here, was very inconsequential. It's not comparable to what we've seen in the past on actual breakouts, like what you see back and over here, like what you see back and over here, like what you see on several of these other examples. I think kind of speaks for itself. That was the first major warning signal, and I imagine that, yes, on historical volatility percentile, when you see it redlined like this, it's unlikely that we're going to see further expansion, in this case a break outside of the range, until we first cool off and contract a little bit. And I believe that that's what we're seeing right now. So, while I actually do still look at this range as very likely to be resolved to the upside, I do think that it's going to take some time trading sideways here. But as it stands, what happened yesterday, even with that, what is it, like $1,000 dump? Yeah, about $1,000 dump right there. We actually just put in a higher low as it stands right now. And with that in mind, I actually would be looking at this as likely in the progress of forming some sort of ascending triangle right here. I mean, you have your nice steady topside resistance right here, and you have your higher lows coming in right here. I guess we'll maybe do this a little bit better on GDAX charts right here. I guess, what do they call themselves now? Like Coinbase Pro or Coinbase whatever the fuck, whatever it is. This ascending triangle would have an apex coming in right around actually middle of this month in November. So that'd give us about another, actually probably around the end of the week. We very likely do resolve this. So I'd actually feel quite comfortable saying that Bitcoin very likely to, I am still bullishly biased here, but I will give both sides very likely to break out above basically 16,000 or below 15,000 and play a nice little trending move sometime this week, actually. Anywhere around here, which is coming in tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday is statistically very, very likely, as we get about 75% full within this whole formation. Now, this would have a measure move to be made if we are going to be looking at a breakout to the upside, and again, the resolution point would be 15.8. We'll call it, just easier to say, and obviously also a lot more accurate now too, seeing as that is your last little sort of what do you want to call it, fake out, if you will, and that will have a measure move based off the ascending triangle, also based off the fib extensions right here, all the way to the 2 spot right around about actually upper 16,000 bucks. So before I was saying, I do expect Bitcoin to make new highs on this run, very likely even this week. However, I was looking more or less in the mid to low $16,000 region, somewhere between about 16,250 and 16,450. No, that is unlikely now, especially with the advent of what we saw yesterday. This is a greater consolidation, and that also makes sense as we do see things kind of cool off more rapidly on the short-term time frame, especially with our volatility metrics. You can see the hourly right here is starting to really contract heavily. So that's likely going to precipitate into the buy hourly. And then I'd imagine in a couple of days, we do see, things start to really gear up for a potential break somewhere right around here, like I said, but unlikely today. If I had to guess, unlikely today. However, I don't think I don't think that timing these moves is like something that can really be done super accurately. I think the best way to do that is essentially look at breakages of ranges, and this is maybe a good time to also reiterate. I almost never ever trade breakouts for about 90, maybe even more than that, maybe more like 95% of my trades, maybe even like 99% of my trades is very simple stuff, just trading support and resistance. I'm more or less way more excited when things range rather than trend, mostly because that's bread and butter of my game. If I do trade a breakout, it's mostly because I just got in the prior retest of support. In this case, it'd be down around here at about 14,850, which I did not, by the way. In the next test to the upside, just happened to break it. After which point, I probably already took off a large margin of my position to begin with. So fair enough. Anyways, my point is that I'd essentially be looking for Bitcoin to trade a little bit sideways and fill at some time, and then probably later this week we do see resolution. And of course, if it does happen to the upside, like I said, I would extend that target up to about almost 17,000 bucks, 16,850-ish region, which I imagine. Oh shit! Fuck. Hold on. Let's go back this way. Yeah, 16,850 would be right around the wick that we saw in the January 2018 major massive bull trap coming in about almost 3 years ago now. So historically speaking, it would have relevancy as well. I can put in a nice little horizontal right there too. Hey, there you go. And let's see what would happen if I throw on a massive or some sort of a mega retracement here from a fib perspective here too. And whoops, I'm doing it backwards because I want to be looking at a bullish retracement in this case as well. That is what it would imply. And what do we see? We do see actually nothing within that region, to be fair. Currently hanging around the 236, which actually is going to be around your next breakout point anyways, so that does line up. And I'm sure if I put in, I think it's the 1 2 something rather, there is another fib somewhere between right here. I do think it's like the 1 spot something, or sorry, the 0.1 spot something rather. And it probably does come in around, if I had to guess, at like 17,000 bucks, just off the top of my head. But we technically don't see that right now because I don't have it in. Anyways, back on the lower term timeframes. Yes, that's what I would be looking for with resolution to the upside. However, if we do get resolution to the downside, I think it's a lot less likely. But if it were to happen, I'd be looking at one of two things. If I'm being super conservative, I'd still be using that 14,700 pivot yesterday, over the last few days that we've been looking at down around here. However, I don't think that that's as necessary now, because if you are looking at this as an ascending triangle, if you're looking at this as still a bullish consolidation with a likely upside resolution, that whole case falls by the wayside and gets destroyed by, well, creating a lower low right here. And in this case, anyone a 4-hour total closure below about 15,000 bucks would do it, especially below yesterday's wick low at 14.8 and about 14.8 even actually. So fair enough. One of two ways of doing that: either wick continuation low below 14.8. Anywhere below there is major warning signals. And in a 2-hour or 4-hour total closure below 15,000 bucks, also big warning signals as well. If you want to be super conservative, I'd still use 14.7, but I would suspect that just by coming back down below this region and closing any sort of significant, even lower term time frame deltas below there, that will start to really destroy this more constructive price action that we're seeing right now. But as it is right now, yes, I'm essentially looking for this one to trade sideways here, fill out a little more space, and then maybe Wednesday, Thursday likely does give a test up to the upside after letting our lower term time frame momentum oscillators cool off just a bit. Speaking of, let's look at them right now as hey, get the fuck out of my face, you silly, what are those called? Notifications. Yeah. God damn it, Facebook. How do you even have my shit over here? I haven't logged into Facebook in like literally 4 or 5 years. It's got to be, it's at least since like 2016, I think. Maybe even 2015. 4-hour Stokes, what do we see? We do see 4-hour Stokes technically coming down right now. And 4-hour Jewel giving a little bit of a sell signal there too. I'm not so so sure about that one, to be fair. Here's what CMEs say here as well. Yeah, they don't have the same thing going on at all. So I'd be very I think it'd be very unlikely to see that one play out. Going back on over here, what do we see on 4-hour RSI? Long term fine, short term fine as well. Sideways is the name of the game here. Historical volatility percentile very red, obviously still. I'm looking for this one to contract a little bit over the next couple days, set it up for the next potential continuation phase. 3-hour, what do we see here? 3-hour Stokes coming all the way down. What I think is very interesting about this one though is the fact that we're seeing it come all the way down while price action has essentially held the median of the range, actually even a little bit above there. It's currently sitting around 15,400-ish region. So I look at that as more or less a bullish reset while also playing out some hidden bullish divergence actually confirmed on that low. Now, I would also argue that the move from about 15.1 all the way up to where we are right now at 15.4, would it be relevant to say that that's already played out the hidden bullish divergence on a 3-hour time frame? Likely, yes. However, if you are going to be going for the more aggressive move on that one, based upon that, I'd extend this move another $200 towards about 15.6. Looking at and same thing on historical volatility percentile here, as you would imagine, 3 hour and 4 hour not going to be all that different. 2 hour already kind of leading them both in. We do see 2 hour Stokes flip flopping around, looking like they are already crossing to the upside. Sure, we can fit in a trend line there as well. But more importantly, we are starting to see bifurcation within the lower term timeframes. What does that typically align with? Sideways within a range, and resolution probably a little bit later, as historical volatility percentile does start to initiate a bit of a contraction phase in comparison to what we just saw. So naturally, you're seeing them kind of lead in. We've already kind of looked at the hourly, but we'll look at it once again. We see hourly Stokes nice and up and in erect as well. So that is a good and still kind of plays in that narrative of more sideways with maybe a very short-term upside bias towards that 15.6 target. But, do I feel all that compelled by that? No, not really. However, if I did have to call it right now, extremely short-term, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to trade back up towards like 15.6. Probably trades a little bit sideways from there, maybe test back onto the downside, maybe even test back down to $15,000. But ultimately, I still do look at this as more or less Bula-ish. And you can see that the HVP over here, this is kind of the read that we're looking for to transpire into the 2, 3, and 4, and then look for that next resolution. Hourly RSI, more or less constructive over the long period of time. I still like it, and I just realized I didn't check out the bi-hourly either, but same thing here, really not seeing much difference. So fair enough, all these things working together, and they do kind of align with the same thing we've been saying for the last couple of days. Going over to the medium term timeframes on a 12-hour, what do we see? We do see 12-hour Stokes coming down, not good, and they are going to be hitting that trend line, the same trend line that has held up all these. Or it must be on my other chart right here. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. All right, nice one. It very likely will be hitting this trend line. And by the way, we actually can raise this up a little bit. It is more of a regression rather than like a stock standard trend line that you'd find on price action. And I'd be looking for it somewhere a little bit more in the aggressive bullish control zone here. So it would imply that we actually do come down a little bit more. But is it going to bounce off this trend line once again? I probably yes. However, when you see a read like this, when you see something that kind of like tightens itself up and closes itself up over time, while also getting some pretty nice lows, by the way, this is the 24th September low. This is the 4th of October low. This was the 19th of October low, and 30th, and then early November. All these correlated with all these lows within this whole nice continuation phase right here. Really, 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 really good references. Anybody's going back into it right now. When you do see something like that, it typically is sitting up for an actual breakdown below this area, but I still wouldn't necessarily call it until it actually officially does happen. And that likely happens, if I had to guess, after that next try to the upside, and then we'll come back and check her out. Moving on, what do we see with 12-hour Jewel following up on this one? Yeah, we did get a pretty damn good sell signal. To be fair, that did lead into the dump that we saw yesterday. Congratulations who played that one, but I still don't think that that's the actual one that we're looking for. I do think what's likely to happen is we're going to see it flip back around on CMEs and put in a perfect sell signal, which is still going to take a little bit of time and likely does imply at least another try of continuation of the upside. Looking at 12-hour RSI, back to the bullish control zone. Again, long term, I like this. Short term, it's okay. I don't really have a strong opinion on it, actually. And historical volatility percentile here also going into contraction phase as well. It looks like. So everything kind of working with each other. We are seeing concert action between low-term timeframes and medium-term timeframes now. And moving on to the daily, what do we see here? We do see daily Stokes very likely coming down. I want to see them come down below the critical zone as well before the next sort of major signal is given. And daily RSI, same. Well, no, I was going to say same thing as well. No, we're looking at something different here. Consolidating around the top side of the bullish control zone very likely does lead for another try back up. However, this is starting to get a bit extended, but yes, it would still imply one more try back onto the upside. So all good right there. And historical volatility percentile, by the way, on the daily is still increasing. We're still expanding. So how does that fit into the narrative? Well, obviously, we're still seeing the trend emerge on a time frame like this. It's still in a continuation phase, and that is the name of the game, at least for now. And I'd be looking for that next local high to be put in somewhere around, tentatively speaking, I'd probably want to see it get like a little bit above, somewhere into the upper 80s, lower 90s at the very least, before I do start to look for the next major potential top. And as we spoke about over the last week or two, the big thing with this is that if you are going to be looking at the next major, I wouldn't say major top, but the next local top before some sort of like a proverbial 30% or 20% pullback, it's likely going to take its time. We have several examples back on over from the last bull market that we saw in 2015 to 2018 right here, right? And there's plenty of times. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that it played out pretty phenomenal pullbacks actually within the context of a greater uptrend. I mean, we're talking about pullbacks to the tune of like 37% right there. We're talking about this one right here, 35%. We're talking about this one right here, you know, another 35%. Now, I've gone through these a lot of times, so I don't want to bore everyone by doing it like for the billionth fucking time. If you want like a full-on dissection of this, go to this weekend's video. I think Sunday is when I went a little bit more deep on this one. But as you can also see with these pullbacks within the context of a greater uptrend, there's two major things. First and foremost, pulls back to the 21 exponential moving average, no closures below, as it does remain a positive slope. That tells you that the move is still essentially on. At least historically speaking, we do see that signature workout all the way back here towards 2011 to 2012, going all the way to 2014, and then vice versa. It does work for the downside as well. It tells you about the bull trap in 2014, and then once again in this whole segment over here from 2015 to 2018, and actually more recently right here and right here as well. Anyways, more importantly, on all of these tops, once they do finally reach their downside resolution, what actually how long does that actually, or what does that actually look like? Well, as you can see right here, some of these take months actually. For this one right here, it takes, and keep in mind, this is a weekly time frame, so each and every one of these totals represents 7 days of price action. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, that's nearly 2 months. This one over here takes about 3 weeks. This one over here takes 4 weeks. This one over here takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. This one takes 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. You know, you can see that some are faster than others, but still, if Bitcoin is going to pop up a little bit more and then actually top out somewhere, you know, preemptively speaking, in like the mid to upper 16,000s, I would be looking for it to happen over the course of not just like 1 day or especially like a 1 hour fucking dildo, but probably over the course of a few weeks if we, you know, if we're going to be looking at that as anything relevant, which I do believe that it is. Also, I completely forgot to talk about the downside resolution on the short-term timeframes. Jesus Christ, man, I'm all over the place today, but I should go back and obviously we'll cover this back on up at the end of this video. But yes, any sort of a closure, like I said, depending upon whether you want to be aggressive or conservative. This one's going to be aggressive. This one's going to be conservative. Let's just call them one the same. Any sort of a closure outside of that range, I'm looking for moves back down towards probably like upper $13,000 region before the next bounce, like 13,800-ish region. So that's a $1,000 move, even from the more conservative estimate. And fair enough, you know, there you go. Anyways, okay, so we looked at the medium-term time frames, we looked at the daily. What about the 2-day? I think the 2-day still looks good to me. I wouldn't mind a backfill on last 2-day open, right around like 14,850 to 14,900, but that would once again be another what's called opportunity, in my opinion, and very likely at the very least bounce from that region on the short-term time frames. Looking at the 2-day right here, though, it looks good. I mean, I still look for this to likely give another try to the upside. There's warning signals populated all across the chart, so we do see 2-day Stokes officially crossing the downside for the first time since literally, I guess, September. Yeah, September. And we have found, you know, quite a few highs within this region, or even in some cases a little bit above. So again, big warning signals. 2-day jewel giving off a major warning signal right here. This is not a sell signal though. It's just a warning signal. However, we have seen it get into this region plenty of times in the past. And once again, throughout the run from 2015 to 2018, you do see that this area actually does call tops quite well. However, it does have a range basically from where we are right now, or a little bit lower than where we are right now actually. So it's technically already initiated, then all the way up to about an 89 read. If you do have access to the jewel, I'd mark those off because that actually has been a really dependable read historically speaking. And again, you know, while it does have some, it doesn't just have some. It has a lot of warning signals here. I would ultimately be looking for this one to try again a little bit higher, and then probably pull it back, What about a 3-day? Same thing here as well. We do see 3-day Stokes. Officially, or not officially, actually, they technically are not officially crossed the downside, but they're getting damn close. Again, 3-day structure looks like it wants a little bit more. I think that this one's very likely to try again to the upside, but there's warning signals everywhere. Looking at 3-day RSI especially, and looking at the red in the background for the 3-day jewel, those are warning signals. They're not sell signals, but they are warning signals. Anyways, moving on, what do we got on our secondary charts over here? Anything that we're not getting from our primary charts? And let me just make sure that I'm recording them and that my microphone's working. Okay, that's good. Hey, not bad. 24 minutes into this video. Almost forgot. Anyways, looking at the daily right here. Oh, isn't that interesting? The topside Bollinger Band's right around 15.9. Very, very interesting that would be also our upside resolution point, isn't it? Anyways, I actually want to go through the lower term timeframes on this one. 4 hours still being governed above the 20 simple right there. So yes. And what else do we see on the 4 hour? The 4 hour is actually going to get this one quite well, in my opinion. We see a lot of confluent things here that would very easily make me look for that next move up into the upper $16,000 region. And first and foremost, I want to see a closure above the top side band. Where is that? That's 15.8. Isn't that the exact same area that we saw governed by the horizontal that we were looking at earlier for a 4 hour closure for continuation to the upside? Yes, indeed it is. Also on top of that, what I want to see is I want to see 4 hour MACD actually cross the upside as well. So momentum turning up as Bitcoin does get above the topside Bollinger Band. So volatility plus momentum, and those are typically very, 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 very powerful signals that do emerge. A trend from that time frame. In this case, would be the 4 hour, and then not as important, but would be pretty damn cool to see as well. Is I want to see the DMI plus get above the threshold at about 22. Sometimes they put this at 23 as well, and more importantly, I want to see the 8x strengthening as well. And if all three of those trifectas happen, I'd very likely be looking for that next move up into the upper $16,000 region. There's going to be a couple areas of caution just because things are a little bit cooked right now. Still about 16.2, I think, to spoil the surprise at the 1.414 extension. However, probably does reach for it. You just don't know where these stray wicks are going to land in a highly volatile market like this on an asset that has very low liquidity, relatively speaking, to most of the things that you'll trade on a real market. Anyways, okay. So we spoke about the low term time frame of this. That's essentially the signature that I'd be looking for. It'd be pretty damn good. And of course, so the downside works as well. Where is that magical point to the downside? About 14.8. So it would align with the more aggressive read that is looking on a wick continuation. So we probably could use that. I don't think that you have to wait for a closure below about 14.7. It's probably unnecessary. I do think that you could afford to be a little bit more aggressive on this. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Blah 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 blah. Spoon boys, beware, baby. Anyways, let's go see what the medium term time frame is saying here. Is there anything of interest here? Again, I wouldn't mind another try back down below $15,000, but I do think that would more or less be an opportunity to actually, just looking at the 12 hour right here, 12 hour MACD, a little bit in trouble, but again, without any sort of an actual breakage of any relevant areas, it doesn't mean anything to me. It needs to be within context. That's the big thing that people get wrong about the MACD all the time. It's actually not a bad indicator at all. It's just people use it completely improperly. People think that it's like, oh, cross the upside, bullish, cross the downside, bearish. It's like, no. if that actually worked, everyone would set up a bot like that and everyone would be rich as fuck. Not the case. Not the case at all, in fact. Anyways, looking at the daily right here, what do we see? Yeah, more or less the same thing. I'm not really getting much off this chart. I wouldn't mind another test back down to the 10 simple that I have here at about, a little bit below $15,000. I do think that that's still very much possible after a short, upside test on the very, very short term time frames we spoke about earlier. But again, I'm looking for a resolution to the upside here, very, very likely. 2-day, we already looked at this one. Looking good. And 3-day, just to know. Actually, this is very interesting as well. Oh, and are we closing one today? Oh, we are. Oh man. Oh my God. Okay, so this has got to be probably the most important part of this video then. Holy shit. And we're just getting to it in the TA nerd session. So this one's only for you, sirs and zers and zims and z's. And if we do see a closure above the topside Bollinger Band, which for reference is only 15,100 right now, tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, then I would be looking for a continuation on this run to new highs. It basically just rounds out the bullish bias still. It would essentially imply that the bullish bias is still my main primary bias here, looking likely for the resolution to the upside, which does imply moves towards, as we spoke about, upper $16,000 region. Let's go check out some other markets. Let's go follow up on NASDAQ and SPY and see what we got going on over there. We got 11,750 on NAS coming all the way down to our most preliminary support. We did say yesterday a retest a prior all-time high. We got that, and then probably pull back from there. But I do not look at this as like a failure. I still look at this as likely to try onwards and upwards. Seen some really good conversation in the Discord earlier between a couple of guys that I really like. These guys are fucking funny. But they were talking about how we need a more aggressive tweeter in the White House. This is bad for the markets. The reason why Biden's bad for the markets is because he doesn't tweet. He's not going to tweet when he's not going to tweet an announcement when the market starts to falter a little bit. All jokes aside, though, I do still think that this one does give another try to the upside. I actually look at this as likely an opportunity. Can it come down a little bit more? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I actually would probably be looking for it to come a little bit down more, on the short-term timeframes, maybe back down towards like 11,550-ish region, but I would be looking for a bounce there and continuation on the higher-term timeframes to new all-time highs. I also want to check out the monthly just really quick here too. How's this one shaping up? Yeah, still fine. Fair enough. Okay, let's go into SPY futures over here. What do we see? Same thing. I'd probably be looking for some short-term downside, maybe back down towards about 34.30 or 34.50. But do I think that the upsides? Well. To be fair, I did say yesterday we were very likely to retest the prior all-time high and make new all-time highs this week. We've done that. I'd be less certain about this one. I want to see the weekly closure on this one. I don't know. We already would have hit everything that I would have looked at coming into this week, which is why we spoke about that on Friday of last week. If you want to reference that video, calling for new all-time highs, and I don't want to say anything other than that because I don't feel very confident with this. I do think that it does come back down around here and probably bounce around here at 34.30-ish region. I don't know if I'd be calling for new highs on top of what we've already seen though. This one's a bit of a wild card. I think that we're going to need to see more time. I do not feel confident in this one. I want to be very transparent when I do not feel that way. What about Microsoft? Just looking at some of the individual ones. Yeah, short term down, back down to 213.25. Apple, same thing. Short term down, probably back to 113.5 or something. Tesla. Ooh, a nice rejection, baby. Come back down to daddy, Tesla. I'd look for a short-term move back down to about $400 base, probably bounce there. But I'm still looking at this one as largely topped out over the long period of time. Then again, I look at the weekly. Is that proper Krown? No, it's not. It's probably I'd be looking for some short-term downside here. However, still got to give it a chance, I guess. Alrighty. Anything else that we want to talk about? Maybe Link really quick versus US dollar. Hey, not bad. We said based off the weekly closure, likely to work its way back up towards short-term target about $15 and more medium target right around 16.5 to $17. I'd still be holding on to that. It looks like it looks fine right here. Looks good. Or actually short-term yesterday, I think I probably said about 13.5. I'd still stick with that short-term target of 13.5, and then eventually I'm basically bullish all the time for this one, to be fair. Spoil the surprise right there too. Versus Satoshi's, maybe not the same case though. Let's go look at Mr. Buterol. Mr. Buterol, same thing here too. Based off the weekly closure, I'm actually looking for this one to likely trade back up above $500 over the next couple weeks. Actually, yesterday I look at this as likely an opportunity there to 430 right on the fucking dot. And I believe that we spoke about that one yesterday too. Very likely a test back down to 430, but that will be an opportunity, or at least at the very first pass. And so far so good. $20 bounce or $25 bounce above that region thus far, and I'd still be looking at this as a continuation. Yeah, probably north of $500 over the next couple weeks. What else do we want to look at? I think I'll save most of it for the Forex video later. Maybe Monero really quickly just to see. This one's been one of the better actors, but looking at its price action right now, probably not. Yeah, this one's struggling a little bit more. Very interesting. Very, very interesting, because this one was a bit of a first mover, so maybe this one's the harbinger of things to come. But I don't feel that confident about that one either. Let's see, what about the very low term time frames? It does look like it's trying to put in at least a short term low here and probably trade back up towards about 125, 127 region. Anyways, back on to Bitcoin. Let's start to wrap. Hold on. I need to make this very clear for Elsa. All right, let's start to wrap this bitch up. And going back down to the 4 hour. Still looking at this as some sort of an ascending triangle, very likely, especially as long as Bitcoin is following the higher low structure at about 15,000 bucks. Any sort of a 2 hour or 4 hour total closure below 15,000 bucks will destroy that. However, I don't necessarily look at this as likely to fully break onto the downside until we at the very least close, let's call it like a 2 hour below 14.8. I do think that Bitcoin is more or less likely to trade sideways within this region over the next day or two and set it up for a breakout probably around here, which would be Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday. These things are very statistically likely to break once you get about 75% full, and that would be about here. Now, if you are looking at this as an ascending triangle and you are bullish, I would have a continuation point right above 15,800-ish region, also in line with what we saw on the 4 hour secondary charts right here. Topside Trojan band is right there as well. And if we do see that area taken out, especially on a 2 hour or 4 hour total closure above there, this does have a measured move actually quite significantly further to the north side, right around about 16,850 at the 2-spot extension, and also related to historical levels as well, coming in from 2018. Jesus Christ, this is an ugly chart. Okay, we'll just go back. But more importantly with this, and let me just take this off right here as well. More importantly with this, I would have cautionary areas along the way as well at the 1-spot 414 at 16,250 for maybe a short-term pullback there. But ultimately, yes, that would be the full-on measure move target. By the same token, if we do break below the bottom side resolution, again, 14.8, I would look for about $1,000 move to the downside, somewhere around 13.8 region, and then that'd probably set us up for the next bounce. If I had to call it right now, though, like I said, sideways, maybe for another day or two, and then probably does try again to the upside. I do think that Bitcoin is more or less likely to move on to the upside here, just based off of formations, based off of momentum, also just based off of what we saw in the secondary charts as well. But still, at the end of the day, the same thing is the same thing, and I want to see a resolution above or below, again, 15.8 to the upside or 14.8 to the downside. Nice $1,000 range. And with that said, I'd like to wish you the best once again. Take care, and until next time.